Welcome back to Storytime with Sean. You're supposed to be able to call the cops for help, but now OP needs a new car. Story 1 from Entitled People is titled, Karen accused me of stealing my own car. Tricked a dumb cop into arresting me. Now my car is a wreck because he gave her the keys. I really don't care who believes this, but here's my story. I live in one of those middle of nowhere desert towns where almost everyone knows almost everyone and it's hot as heck, but dirt cheap to buy a home or land to live in. And it's not uncommon for old cars to last out here as they almost never rust and people keep fixing them. After high school, I worked my butt off at a local job to get my own place. I ended up buying a small plot of land with a trailer on it off a guy that decided he was going to move to Texas. And the guy also sold me his old Ford Escort prior to that. It was an okay first car. Got me around well enough. Still have it too. 10 years have gone by since then. And for a while, I spent a lot of my time tinkering with an old 87 Monte Carlo that I bought super cheap as it was without an engine or transmission. I loved that car, as an older cousin of mine had one when I was a kid and I always wanted one of my own. I spent 2 years fixing up the one I got with some help from some friends and finished it in 2019. Since the engine was missing, I dropped in a junkyard Chevy 305 V8 that was connected to a rebuilt 4-speed automatic transmission with low miles from a totaled car. I then painted it myself inside a friend's garage with a Harbor Freight sprayer and some GM black single-stage gloss paint and buffed it to a shine. I finished it up with some gold Monte Carlo decals and some classic moon rims I bought from the local junkyard and polished up. I also partially redid the interior by replacing the seats and putting in a custom steering wheel. I'm not really a mechanic, but all my friends helped me. And online how-to videos on my smartphone really helped as well. The car was fun to drive and looked good, and I kept it in good order. That is until this mess went down. Now, I didn't really trust some of the local law enforcement out here before, and this gave me even more reason not to. A lot of the cops out here are barely qualified for the job. They are practically hired with a handshake and just told to play Doom for training. Granted though, many of them are really nice. The sheriff is even kinda a friend of mine, but he's really one of the only competent ones there. Most of the rest don't really do their jobs very well, especially when a new one gets hired on. Like a guy that went out of his way to move to my town just to get to be a cop. In this case, he was the nephew of the sheriff. He even brought his own Crown Vic with a loudspeaker to drive around town in. Let's call this guy NC or Nephew Cop, since he was the nephew of the sheriff. C and I didn't know each other personally yet, but I was aware of him. He was dumb as a rock and high on his own ego. He was like Marnie Fife and John Cena had an illegitimate son together because he was a tall, strong-looking man that was always giving people creepy looks and patrolled on foot up and down Main Street with a clipboard in hand and a big grin on his face. He also liked to publicly flex his muscles in front of people. One Saturday morning, I took my Monte Carlo out to meet a friend, but they ended up bailing because of a last-minute issue with their girlfriend. I thought, meh, no problem. I'll just get some fast food and go home. I went to the local burger place and got a meal to go. And as I'm walking out, there was a lady outside looking over my car. She was bent over in a very short skirt. Not gonna lie, I enjoyed the view. People would stop here and there to ask me about my car and where I got it. I usually don't mind so long as they're polite, though this woman ended up being anything but. She was curvy and good looking while wearing a black miniskirt. I'm guessing early to mid 30s or so. Not really sure. I asked her if she liked my car. She stood up, took one look at me and snickered. I asked her what was so funny. To get an idea what I looked like at the time, I was a skinny guy with a scraggly beard and was wearing a faded AC/DC t-shirt with the sleeves ripped off, along with worn out, cut off denim shorts and flip-flops. I guess she figured I was poor or something. So she was probably judging my appearance. She looked me up and down in an obvious way and then said, "There's no way this is your car. You couldn't possibly afford something this nice." Now, I have a tendency to get sarcastic or snide when people make assumptions about me, so I said back, "Oh, really, lady? The title is in my name, and these keys right here in my hand say I'm the owner too." The Karen just glared at me as I put the keys in the lock and began to open the door. I looked behind her and noticed a beige 90s Volvo with a missing headlight and had out-of-state plates on it parked not far behind me. I put two and two together and laughed. "Let me guess, lady. That's your car over there?" She started to turn beet red. I laughed and said, "Oh, don't be ashamed. Those aren't lookers, but they'll run forever." I figured this was over, but as I was opening my car door, I suddenly felt her nails digging into my shoulder, and she was screeching so loud my ears were hurting. Before I could turn around, she kicked me between my legs from behind with a high heel shoe so hard I collapsed in agony. And true to my luck, NC drove right up because he'd heard her screeching from down the street during his noon patrol. As soon as NC was out of his car, the Karen ran to him crying and saying that I was a carjacker and I was attempting to take her new car. I wasn't looking at either of them as I was on the ground wincing in the fetal position from the pain. The next thing I heard was NC yelling, "Put your hands behind your back!" And then I was being pinned down by his knee on my spine and forcibly cuffed. I tried telling NC that I knew his uncle and can prove I'm the real owner of the car, but he called me white trash and told me to shut up. He then picked up my keys off the ground and actually handed them to the Karen. And he seemed to do a hero pose while she gave me a crap-eating grin. No matter what I said, NC wasn't listening to me because he fully believed her. And then I had to see Karen start up my car and drive off with it. My heart sank as I watched it sail down the road with her flipping me off. NC then drugged me back to the sheriff's office. I'd hoped his uncle was in, but just my bad luck, he was out to lunch. So NC put me in the cell and told me to keep quiet. I was pissed, but I knew I wasn't going to make my situation any better, so I just waited. During that time, NC kept giving me looks of contempt. At one time, he walked across the cell with a nightstick, grazing it against each bar like he was trying to intimidate me. At least an hour went by and the sheriff finally came in, through the door nursing a big gulp, but froze the second he saw me. "OP, what are you doing here?" I was about to speak when NC jumped in and said, "I caught this low-life creep trying to steal a lady's car, so I hauled him in." That's when I finally got my chance to speak and said, "Yeah, only it was my car. The one I spent so long fixing up." NC just rolled his eyes and said not to listen to me, but the sheriff silenced him and asked my full story. As I tried to tell it, NC was making dismissive looks and repeatedly interrupting until the sheriff told him to sit down and shut up. That's when I was finally able to say everything that happened, and he was furious. The sheriff laid into NC, who was cowering in a chair like a little boy and saying it was indeed my car, and he stupidly gave the keys to a thief that assaulted me. NC started frantically apologizing and trying to say he was just trying to help, but the sheriff called him an idiot that just wanted to play hero by saving a damsel in distress. Now the whole department would be in hot water for his unlawful arrest and physical assault against me. Then he finally let me out of the cell. I got some ice for my crotch and got taken home. Sheriff and NC went back to the burger restaurant, but Karen's car was no longer there. They got the CCTV footage from the camera the restaurant had looking outside. It caught everything minus the audio. Karen had come back, riding piggyback with a guy on a motorcycle over a half hour from the time she left my car. She blew him a kiss and drove off in her Volvo. The sheriff scrambled everyone, even NC, to try to chase her down, but they couldn't find her as she'd already driven out of the county lines. Some phone calls were made to other departments to look for her. and I had to sit at home with an ice pack on my crotch all evening waiting for news on what happened. A couple days later, my car was found just a few miles out of town. Karen had broken all the windows with what I'm assuming was a tire iron and put the car in neutral and let it coast down a deep rocky hill, rolled it into the bottom ditch, which smashed the front end and warped the frame. It was completely totaled. I wanted to cry from the sound of the metal crunching on the rock as the tow truck pulled it back. NC was there too. He couldn't even look at me the entire time. My insurance also didn't want to cover the car. The sheriff's office was made to pay me the value of my Monte Carlo. Instead, since NC let it happen, which was only about $5,000. It was honestly close to what I had put into it since I did almost all the work by hand with the help of friends. NC paid me another $2,000 for my trouble and said it was most of his savings. The Karen was caught at a motel a state over sometime later and was arrested for soliciting and possession. Grand Theft Auto was just one of the many things she was charged with. I got a video call just to see her in court and testify. She looked like a wreck the whole time because she knew she was screwed. And it wasn't long before she was pronounced guilty. She got 10 years behind bars with no possibility of parole. As for NC, the sheriff all but begged me not to sue him because he was his nephew and he promised his sister he'd look out for the guy. I'm not a sue-happy person, so I let it go provided NC actually takes some sort of course on how to properly do his job. And so the incident was more or less rug sweep, and NC was demoted to sitting at a desk all day answering phones, and they would be docking his pay until every penny was paid back. He's still relegated to desk duty half the time these days, and he still avoids me anytime I'm near him. Arguably, he's a better cop now though because he mellowed out. As for me, it took some time, but with help, I finally located a replacement Monte Carlo project car with a clean title. And it was the same year too. I salvaged as many parts as I could from my old one and used it all in the build. The engine and transmission were still good, and somehow, so were most of the base parts. And the sheriff personally came by to help my friends and I build the new car in his downtime. It took a year, but now I've got a fresh-looking Monte Carlo that looks just like my old one. You'd never know they weren't the same car. I've made sure to have better insurance this time around, and I'll be darned if I ever let a Karen near my car again. Some people do not belong in positions of power. I wonder what that conversation is like if he ever goes to get a new job. Have you ever been convicted of a crime? Well, I could have been. I helped the suspect accidentally steal a car. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that out loud. I'll just go now. I know this video is running a little long, but we're gonna hit a story 2. Story 2 is from Malicious Compliance, titled, Stuck to the Script. So I did. Word for word. I, 18 female, worked in a call center for about 3 months, mostly helping people reset passwords and answer basic questions. During training, they told us to sound natural and conversational. Cool, I did that and I got great feedback from callers. Then we got a new supervisor who flipped if we didn't read the script exactly as written. She said, "If you even deviate slightly, you'll be written up." Okay. Next call, a guy calls and says, "Hey, my account is locked. Can you help me real quick?" I respond, robot tone, "Hello, thank you for calling. My name is Sally, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. How may I assist you with your technical concern today?" He paused and said, "Are you serious?" I kept going, word for word. Even the weird, fake empathy lines like, "I completely understand how frustrating this unique situation must feel." Mid-call, my supervisor walks by and actually stopped to listen. She tilted her head, looked confused, and then asked after the call, "Why were you talking like that?" I just said, "You told me to stick to the script." She didn't have a comeback, and funnily enough, the next day she told our team, "Okay, just make sure you cover the key points." You can be natural again. Nice job, OP. Taking the crazy and ridiculous and making it easy so future generations at that call center don't have to deal with that. I'm sure that caller was like, what is going on here? Did I call the right number? I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I had a blast reading. Who would have ever thought that a cop would help with Grand Theft Auto? If you enjoy the stories as I read them, please keep coming back, clicking that like button, that subscribe button, and shares are great too. If you like the way I'm doing it, leave a comment in the comment section. Maybe you'll give me an idea for a new story. So come back next time and we'll have something else for you to laugh at. We will see you next time at Storytime with Sean. Have a great day, morning, evening, whatever time of day you've chosen to spend a little time with me. I truly appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Later on.